Thank you so much for joining. Glad to have your association.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityaṁ bhāgavata-sevayā Bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati nishtiki Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear worshipful devotees, thank you so much for joining. We are reading Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 18, entitled King Yayāti Regains His Youth. So we were talking about this fighting going on between Devyani, the daughter of Shukracharya, and Sarmishta, the daughter of Vrishraparva. So in the last few verses we were discussing that how Shukracharya cursed that basically Shukracharya cursed Yayāti when he got close to Sarmishta, and he was told before marriage to not get close to her because she was not in good terms, or Devyani and Sarmishta didn't have good terms. So basically, Yayāti was attacked by old age and invalidity because of the curse of his father-in-law, referring to Shukracharya. So let's read what happens further. Śrī Yayāti Ruvacha Atripto asmak adya kaman brahmandu hitari smete vyavatyasyatam yatha kamam vayasayo bhidhasyati. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai. King Yayāti said, O learned worshipable Brahmana, I have not satisfied my lusty desires with your daughter. Shukracharya then replied, you may exchange your old age with someone who will agree to transfer his youth to you. Purport. When King Yayāti said that he had not yet satisfied his lusty desires with Shukracharya's daughter, Shukracharya saw that it was against the interest of his own daughter for Yayāti to continue in old age and invalidity, for certainly his lusty daughter would not be satisfied. Therefore, Shukracharya blessed his son-in-law by saying that he could exchange his old age for someone else's youth. He indicated that if Yayāti's sons would exchange his youth for Yayāti's old age, Yayāti could continue to enjoy sex with Devyani. Hare Kṛṣṇa. So, lust is like a forest fire. The more, it's like adding, it's never satiated, and we'll learn that later. It's never satiated. And the more one tries to satisfy that, the more one burns. Yehi sansparshajab hoga dukkha yoneva evate adi antavantu konteya nateshu ramate buddha. Bhagavad Gita 5.22. The pleasures derived from the contact of the senses have a beginning and the end. In fact, they are sources of misery. And the wise, the Buddha, intelligent people, na teshu ramate buddha. They do not take pleasure in those which have a beginning and an end. What do they take pleasure in? Machchita madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayantasya mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Here the word Raman is coming again. They take pastimes in the beautiful hearing katha of Radha Raman. they take Raman in that, or they dwell their mind and senses in that to hear about Krishna, because that's real pleasure. That's so sukham. This is dukham. So King Yayāti was not happy. The daughter would not be happy. And the father or father-in-law, Shukracharya, would not be happy. So when he was given this curse of old age, Shukracharya gave an option that if any of his sons exchanged their youth with Yayāti, it's old age, then something can be done. So let's see if any of the sons of Yayāti, yesterday's class we discussed about the 5 sons. Yadu, Durvasa were from Devyani, and Dhruyu, Anu, and Puru were from Sarmishta. So let's see what happened. Did he approach them? Did they exchange? Did they say no? What happened? Let's see. Anyone wants to read? Ashish Mataji, you want to read?
Ji Prabhuji, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Dandatanam, all devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Text number 38. Iti labdha vyavasthanaha putram jeshtam avochata yado tata pratiche mam jaram dehi nijam vayaha. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When Yayāti received this benediction from Shukracharya, he requested his eldest son, "My dear son Yadu, please give me your youth in exchange for my old age and invalidity." Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Back to you. Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. This is very straightforward. So he went to Yadu, the eldest of the sons of Devyani, and asked us, would you do that? Next verse, anyone? Raghu Prabhu, you want to read?
Yes, I can read. Thank you. Hare Kṛṣṇa devotees. Text 39. Mata Mahāpratam Vatsa Natrapto Visayasa Aham Vayasa Bhāgavata-sevayā Ramasye Katipayaha Samaha. Translation and purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. My dear son, I'm not yet satisfied in my sexual desires, but if you are kind to me, you can take the old age given by your maternal grandfather, and may I take your youth so that I may enjoy life for a few years more. Purport. This is the nature of lusty desires. In Bhagavad Gita 7.220, it is said that kames tes ter rita janaha. When one is too attached to sense gratification, he actually loses his sense. The word rita janaha refers to one who has lost his sense. Here is an example. The father shamelessly asked his son to exchange youth for old age. Of course, the entire world is under such illusion. Therefore, it is said that everyone is pramatmaha, or exclusively mad. Nunam pramattaha kurute vikarma. When one becomes almost like a madman, he indulges in sex and sense gratification. Sex and sense gratification can be controlled, however, and one achieves perfection when he has no desires for sex. This is possible only when one is fully Krishna conscious. Yadavati mama cheta Krishna padaravinde nava nava rasad damani udayatam rattam asit tadvadi patan nat sangame smarya mane bhavati mukha vikraha sustu nisti vanam cha. Since I have been engaged in transcendental loving service of Krishna, realizing ever new pleasure in him, whenever I think of sex pleasure, I spit at the thought and then my lips curl with distaste. Sexual desire can be stopped only when one is fully Krishna conscious and not otherwise. As long as one has desires for sex, one must change his body and transmigrate from one body to another to enjoy sex in different species or forms. But although the forms may differ, the business of sex is the same. Therefore, it is said, Puna punas charvita charva nam. Those who are very much attached to sex transmigrate from one body to another, the same business of chewing the chewed. Tasting sex enjoyment as a dog, sex enjoyment as a hog, sex enjoyment as a demigod, and so on. Hare Krishna, thank you, Prabhuji. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. It's a very, very important verse, and Bhagavad Gita speaks about this lust, anger, greed in multiple verses. And Prabhupada is quoting 7.20 from Bhagavad Gita here, that lust blinds us, or lust steals our intelligence. Hrita jnana, haran kar leta. It steals our intelligence. Or there are 4 types of blind people as per the Niti Shastra. Nevam pashyati janmandha, kam andha neva na pashyati, arti dosham na pashyati, jan madon matta na pashyati. Janmandha, janm se andha, quite straightforward, blind by birth, like because of past karma, someone could be. Then kamandha, blinded by lust. The classic example given in this case is Silhana Mishra, who was before Bilamangal Thakur became the great Bilamangal Thakur. We have heard stories that how he was so overpowered by lust, he could not see the corpse of his own father and thought it's a boat. He could not see a snake and thought it's a rope to get to Chintaman, the prostitute. So the point is, because one cannot see the right and the wrong, lust, steals the intelligence. And even a Jamil, same story, blinded by lust, kicked off his own good wife, parents, started to do all sorts of nonsense things, blinded by lust. Then the blinded by money as one, and then blinded by false prestige is the others. So it's very, very powerful. So one must be careful. Otherwise, one will become blind and will steal our intelligence. Now, what's the solution? This verse is quoted by Sri Yamunacharya. To be more attached to Krishna. If we are attached to Krishna, since I have been engaged in the transcendental loving service of Sri Krishna, all these pleasures are tuchha sukha. These are not real sukha. Bhakti is real ananda, but we need to experience it by reading, hearing, chanting, etc. When one is experiencing the joy, the higher taste, the lower taste of this world will be very tuchha or lowly. So why would someone try to if someone is having nice samosa, rasagulla, gulab jamun, etc., will one be attracted to the stool of a pig? It may sound no, but the example is quite Similarly, when we can't even compare the spiritual ecstasy which the Goswamis are experiencing, the pure devotees are experiencing. They're desiring millions and millions of tongues, millions and millions of ears to experience the holy name, to experience the joy of bhakti. So again, I'm just theoretically saying it and praying, hoping that one day the prayers of the devotees and causeless mercy can also experience that joy. So much taste is there in the holy name, so much rasa is there. But Krishna will not give that so easily. So, Prabhupada is also quoting Prahlad Maharaj, Punish Punishcharvata Charanam, chewing the chewed. The classic example we can think of with the sugar cane juice. We may have seen this, like how the juice wala puts the sugar cane in that machine and it's crushed, and again, then again, then again, then there is no juice, right? So that's basically chewing the chewed. We had so many species of life, dogs, cats, hogs, and have gone through all that. Still in the human form also, if we do the same thing, ahar, nidra, bhaya, maithunam, then lochan vole say papi elo argelo. So many verses say, so many songs, so many Vaishnava bhajans tell the same thing, that if we waste the precious human form of life also in these tuchha sukha, then this chance will not come again. So, intelligent person takes pleasure in the higher taste and gives up the lower taste. Okay, Vyas Prabhu, would you like to read next verse?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, all devotees. Okay.
It's a longer purport, so maybe you can read halfway through and then someone else can read.
Okay. Notsahe jarasa sthatu matnatara praptaya tava aviditva sukham gramyam vaitrušnayam naiti purushaha.
Mr. Prabhuji, you'd like to
Okay.
read?
Yadu replied, "My dear father, you have already achieved old age, although you also were a young man. But I do not welcome your old age and invalidity, for unless one enjoys material happiness, one cannot attain reunification. Reunification. Okay, back to you, Prabhuji. Thank you. The letters are too small on my cell phone. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries, Prabhu.
Yeah.
So, thank you for reading the verse in the translation. Yes, Vedi, you want to read half of the purport?
Hare Krishna. Renunciation of material enjoyment is the ultimate goal of human life. Therefore, the Varnashram institution is the most scientific. It aims at giving one the facility to return home back to Godhead, which one cannot do without completely renouncing all connections with the material world. Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu said, Nishkinchanasya bhagavad bhajano non mukhasya. One who wants to go back home, back to Godhead, must be niskinchana, free from all affinity for material enjoyment. Brahmani upashamashrayam. Unless one is fully renounced, one cannot engage in devotional service or stay in Brahman. Devotional service is rendered on the Brahman platform. Therefore, unless one attains the Brahman platform or spiritual platform, one cannot engage in devotional service, or in other words, a person engaged in devotional service is already on the Brahman platform. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, there is, you can read one more paragraph.
Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sargunan samatidyetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Bhagavad Gita 14.26. If one attains devotional service, therefore, he is certainly liberated. Generally, unless one enjoys material happiness, one cannot attain renunciation. Varnashram therefore gives the opportunity for gradual elevation. Yadu, the son of Maharaj Yayāti, explained that he was unable to give up his youth, for he wanted to use it to attain the renounced order in the future.
Yeah. Yes, Sampradamataji, you want to complete the purport?
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Maharaj Yadu was different from his brothers. As stated in the next verse,
Haribol, it's not audible properly. Can you hold the microphone close to your mouth?
Can you hear me now? Hare Krishna.
Okay, try.
Okay.
Is it audible to others?
Not really, Prabhuji.
Okay, try again, Sampradam.
What about now, Prabhuji?
Yes, that's much better.
Okay, Prabhuji. Maharaj Yadu was different from his brothers, as stated in the next verse. Durvasus Jodhapitra Druhujanus Jabharata Pratyachakyur Adharmagyaha. Maharaj Yadu's brothers refused to accept his father's proposal because they were not completely aware of dharma. To accept orders that follow religious principles, especially the orders of one's father, is very important. Therefore, when the brothers of Maharaj Yadu refused their father's order, this was certainly irreligious. Maharaj Yadu's refusal, however, was religious. As stated in the 10th canto, Yaduscha Dharma Silasya, Maharaj Yadu was completely aware of the principles of religion. The ultimate principle of religion is to engage oneself in devotional service to the Lord. Maharaj Yadu can you scroll down, Prabhuji? Thank you. Maharaj Yadu was very eager to engage himself in the Lord's service, but there was an impediment. During youth, the material desire to enjoy the material senses is certainly present, and unless one fully satisfies these lusty desires in youth, there is a chance of one's being disturbed in rendering service to the Lord. We have actually seen that many sannyasis who accept sannyas prematurely, not having satisfied their material desires, fall down because they are disturbed. Therefore, the general process is to go through grihastha life and vanaprastha life and finally come to sannyasa and devote oneself completely to the service of the Lord. Maharaj Yadu was ready to accept his father's order and exchange youth for old age because he was confident that the youth taken by his father would be returned. But because this exchange would delay his complete engagement in devotional service, he did not want to accept his father's old age, but he was eager to achieve freedom from disturbances. Moreover, among the descendants of Yadu would be Lord Krishna. Therefore, because Yadu was eager to see the Lord's appearance in his dynasty as soon as possible, Yadu refused to accept his father's proposal. This was not irreligious. However, because Yadu's purpose was to serve the Lord, because Yadu, as a faithful servant of the Lord, Lord Krishna appeared in his dynasty, as confirmed in the prayers of Kunti. Yadu Priyasyanvaye. Yadu was very dear to Krishna, who was therefore eager to descend in Yadu's dynasty. In conclusion, Maharaj Yadu should not be considered adharmagya, ignorant of religious principles, as the next verse designates his brothers. He was like the four Sanakas, Chatulusana, who refused the order of their father Brahma for the sake of a better cause. Because the four Kumaras wanted to engage themselves completely in the service of the Lord as brahmacharis, their refusal to obey their father's order was not irreligious. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, back to you.
Krishna, thank you so much. Sampradaya Mataji for reading this nice verse. So, Maharaj Yayāti asked his eldest son Yadu to exchange youth. One devotee, Prabhu is also here on the devotees, mentioning that people at the age of 70 years, 80 years, they also go to the doctors to give them medicine or some steroids or something so that they can be more youthful and basically enjoy senses. Episodes of a 70-year-old person getting married to a 20-year-old girl are not uncommon these days. Why? Basically, lust. They may not want to hear it. They may give polished names and whatever, but the Shastras bring the story very clearly. It is lust only. So, two reasons are given. It's a very interesting story here that Yadu's brothers also few of the other brothers rejected father's proposal. And Yadu also rejected father's proposal. But their consciousness and understanding was completely different in rejecting the father's proposal to exchange the old age with their youth or the son's youth. So two main reasons are given here why Yadu rejected father's proposal. Number one, Varnashrama Dharma. That the goal of human form of life is self-realization. Prabhupada is mentioning renunciation of material enjoyment is the ultimate goal of life. And for majority of the people, just listening theoretically does not work. Even when Narada Muni gave, the brahmacharya to the Haryashvas and the Shavalashvas, their father also, who was that? Their father? I'm forgetting the name. Who cursed Narada Muni? Anyone remembers? Daksha Prajapati? Daksha Prajapati cursed Narada Muni. You won't stay at one place. And his reason was also quite logical and sensible at that point, that hey, these are not even mature. You are asking them to artificially take celibacy, but they are not. So majority, especially in this day, and that's what we see, majority of the population, even in ISKCON, follows the general path, which is brahmachari or grihastha. And it's not the ideal way, but majority are grihasthas. Basically, that's the point. Majority have family, children, job, home, etc. But few rare souls, they take the vow of lifelong celibacy, which is very glorious, and all glories to all those devotees. But Yadu said that if I exchange my youth with you, then the desires will still linger in my heart, and I will have to take birth again to satisfy those desires. So that's why I'm sorry, I don't want to miss the human form of life chance to attain self-realization. So basically, Varnashrama Dharma is not to increase our desires, but to gradually reduce our desires. So that when we are in the final lap, referring to the later stage of the life, nowadays no one lives for 100 years. Practically no one takes sannyas. Vanaprastha is also very rare. People are working till 60, 65 years. No one wants to give up money. So all these things are there. Nothing is going the ideal way. So, but the point is that as we are getting old, we are certainly closer to death. That's practically true for everyone, but it's the final lap of life. So at that point, the duty is that, okay, now let's, Grihastha means expansion, wife, kids, job, business, home. Vanaprastha means winding down. It's kind of trying to pack up. Grihastha means expansion. Now it's time to pack up and wrap up things and wind down, less attached to family, less attached to home, things like that. And so my last lap is coming sooner. And then one can take intense shelter. So that's the ideal Varnashrama gradual renunciation. That was the one reason. And more importantly, Krishna had to appear in the Yadukula. Yaduvar Parishad Sver. So many verses. He's the beacon light of Yadukula. Yadava. The name comes from again Yadu. And so many other verses are there which talk about the descendants or that he's the light of the Yadus. So that was the main reason. If Yadu would have exchanged his youth with the father, then his service to be an instrument for the Lord's appearance would have hindered. So his saying no to the father was not contrary to dharma. But the other brothers, the other three brothers saying no was contrary, because one must not disobey the instructions of the father. Bhishma Pitama also we see quite similar, that he decided not to marry just to please the father or the request of the father's father-in-law. What was the name of the wife?
Satyavati.
Satyavati. And who is the father of Bhishma?
Shantanu
Maharaj.
Shantanu. Thank you. So yeah, the marriage of Shantanu and Satyavati was upon a condition that firstly, his son, that is Satyavati's son, would be the king. But later we know that they I think died early. So it's a whole story. But yeah, Bhishma, when he said that I will never marry and I will support the whoever is at the throne, even the demigod showered flowers. And that's how he is known as Bhishma, the great vow he took. So quite similar. Basically, he didn't directly exchange his youth, but he kind of compromised his being a marriage and everything for the sake of the father. And then the father gave unlimited blessings to him. Okay. Any other comments, any additions anyone has?
Prabhu, I would just like to add that, with your permission, very nicely explained.
Yes, please, Mataji.
That Vanaprastha is different. When we speak about this Vanaprastha, that is after 50. So nowadays, if we look at ISKCON, we can see so many leaders are doing so many services. Our own Ananta Mataji and Ramya Prabhu, they are doing such wonderful service, and they are not even Vanaprastha. They have last 20 years they could have been in Vanaprastha, but they are doing such a wonderful service to Krishna that Vanaprastha would be a compromise, or would be a step down. And I just really want to add that so many other Gopal Bhatta Prabhu, Anuttama Prabhu, they're all doing such wonderful services, and Rukmini Mataji. I just want to add that, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mataji. And in fact, Prabhupada mentions that Vanaprastha, one can certainly live with the wife if they are supporting each other in the Vanaprastha stage. And Vanaprastha doesn't mean to go to the forest, but to go to Vrindavan. And all Prabhupada's temples are like Vrindavan. So staying near a temple and, as you said, fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, outreach, sharing their experiences, their realizations, their depth of knowledge and bhakti and purity. That's the ideal Vanaprastha. That's the best. So thank you so much for bringing that wonderful point, Mataji. Okay, anyone who didn't get chance yesterday wants to read? Nandini Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, Prabhu, sure. Dandavat Pranam, devotees. Text 41. Turvasushchoditaha putra pitra druyushanuscha bharata pratyachakyu radharmaya dharmaikya yanitye nitya buddhayaha. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O Maharaj Parikshit, Yayāti similarly requested his sons Turvasu, Dhruyu and Anu to exchange their youth for his old age. But because they were unaware of religious principles, they thought that their flickering youth was eternal, and therefore they refused to carry out their father's order. So interesting point here is that they are Sharmishta's son, three sons, Dhruvasu, Dhruyu and Anu, and they are Kshatriyas and Kshatriya's sons. So they are Kshatriyas, they are not Shudras, despite being maid servant sons. But they were unaware of religious principles, unfortunately, and they thought is that let them enjoy. So again, not on dharmic basis they are rejecting on a purely material basis. Let's see what happens next. Thank you, Prabhu. Back to you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. So Yayāti had 5 sons, as we discussed, and I'm just sharing a kind of a picture also which explains who were the 5 sons and who were their mothers, as we have already discussed, but it's good to see in a kind of a tabular format, so it helps us to understand better here. So the eldest among them was Yadu. Yadu and Thurvasu were the sons of Devyani. And Yayāti and Sarmishta, their 3 sons were Dhruyu, Anu and Puru. So Yadu we spoke about when Yayāti went to Yadu and asked to exchange the youth, and we discussed in the last purport why he said no. Then Yayāti went to these 3, Turyasu, Dhruyu and Anu. And all 3 of them said, no Baba, no, we don't want to exchange youth with you. Why? Their reason, as Prabhupada mentioned in the previous verse, their reason is based on adharma. Yadu's reason was based on dharma. They were attached to flickering youth. This youth, time flies fast, and this body will be gone, the youth will be gone. No one wants to grow old, but still old age comes. So therefore, their saying no is not encouraged or glorified here. Yadu saying no was certainly glorified here. So let's see what happens. One more son is left. Let's see what happens when what happens. Yeah. Prabhu, want to read?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna, everyone. Text 42. Aparchatanyam purum vyaya sonam gunadikam natvam agrajavad vatsa mam pratyekahayatum arhasi. Translation by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada teacher. King Yayati then requested Puru, who was the younger than these three brothers, but more qualified. My dear son, do not be disobedient like your elder brothers, for that is not your duty. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for reading this verse. I was just thinking that Yayati is cognizant of the duty of the son, but not cognizant of the duty of the father. Why? Kamestes srithagyana, as Prabhupada said. One after the other, he is getting rejection. Yadu said no. Duryu said no. And the other son, Durvasu said no. Duryu said no. Anu said no, no, no. But the father still is trying. Lust is very powerful. One is blinded. Now he's trying to somehow convince Puru that you are very obedient, you have a lot of good qualities, you are very qualified. Your elder brothers, do not be disobedient. And it is your duty to be obedient. So it's interesting that one can use the scriptures. Of course, we are not judging or blaming anyone here, but we are trying to be cognizant that sometimes we may, if not being careful, we may use scriptures for our advantage. That, oh, it is your duty, but is it your duty to ask for that? To exchange youth, your son, is that the duty? Probably no, as already discussed. But lust binds and blinds. Okay, let's see what Puru replied to his father, Yayati. Avani, want to read?
Hare Krishna. Sri Puru Uvacha Konu Loke Manushyendra Pitur Atma Krita Puman Pratikartum Kshamo Yasya Prasadad Vindate Param. Translation. Guru replied, O your majesty, who in this world can repay his debt to his father? By the mercy of one's father, one gets the human form of life, which can enable one to become an associate of the Supreme Lord. Purport. The father gives the seed of the body, and this seed gradually grows and develops until one ultimately attains the developed human body with consciousness higher than that of the animals. In the human body, one can be elevated to the higher planet, and furthermore, if one cultivates Krishna consciousness, one can return home back to Godhead. This important human body is obtained by the grace of the Father, and therefore everyone is indebted to his Father. Of course, in other lives, one also gets a father and mother. Even cats and dogs have fathers and mothers. But in the human form of the life, the father and the mother can award their son the greatest benediction by teaching him to become a devotee. When one becomes a devotee, he achieves the greatest benediction because he completely averts the repetition of birth and death. Therefore, the father who trains his child in Krishna consciousness is the most benevolent father in this world. It is said, Janame janame sape pita mata paya Krishna guru nahi mile baja hari ye. Everyone gets a father and mother, but if one gets the benediction of Krishna and Guru, he can conquer material nature and return home back to Godhead. Hare Krishna, back to you.
Krishna, thank you so much. Reading this nice verse about the debt to the father. It's the mercy of the father one gets the human form of life. Right? And there are two births in one is the biological father, one who gives the seed to the mother, and then the child is born. But that father, as Prabhupada is mentioning, even the cats and dogs have. Janme janme sabe pita mata paya. Cats also have a father cat, mother cat. Dogs also have a mother dog, father dog. Goats also have mother dog. Any species, they have practically this mother, father who give the child. But Krishna Guru nahi mile bhaja hari e. Cats and dogs don't get Krishna and Guru. What to speak of cats and dogs? Even in Manushya Yoni, very, very rare. Maunam Janmanam. What's that verse? Brahmanda Brahmite Kono Bhagyavana Jiva Guru Krishna Prasada Paya Bhakti Lata Bija. In this wandering in this Brahmanda, Brahmite, out of Brahman means wandering in this 14 planetary system, in the cycle of birth and death, in the different 8.4 million species of life. Brahmanda Brahmite Kono Bhagyavana Jiva. Who is that fortunate soul? Guru, who attains the mercy of Guru and Krishna. It's very, very rare, very, very rare. Out of thousands and millions and zillions of souls and species, one is that fortunate. So, and we are all that amongst those fortunate people who have received the mercy of Guru and Krishna by the medium of Bhagavatam, by the medium of Srila Prabhupada, by the medium of this Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Parampara, by the medium of the chanting of the holy name, by the medium of ISKCON, by the medium of temples, prasadam, deities. It is not ordinary. It is very, very rare. Rarest of the rare. The devotees, the Vaishnava Sangha, the Shastra, the Gita, the Bhagavat. It is not ordinary. How many people in this world would be having this opportunity? Let's forget about the animal species or the other than human species. Even in the human species, it's very, 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 very rare. So it's all our great fortune. So debt to the father, especially this time this Pitri Paksha is going on. So it's the duty of the children to offer the debt. There is, because we certainly have debt to the fathers. What's that famous verse? Anyone remembers? Debt to the king, debt to the father. But all the debts are cleared when we remember Krishna. Like watering the root of the tree. So that's the best way. Because we don't even know who all we owe the debt. Debt to the nurse in the hospital. Debt to the demigods. Okay, any other comments, additions, thoughts on these verses? Prabhupada is also mentioning a very nice point here, that the duty of the parents, the father and the mother, is to give their children the greatest benediction by making him or her a devotee of Krishna. That's the greatest benediction. Rest other things will come by their prarabdha. So therefore, the parents who teach Krishna consciousness to their children are the most benevolent parents in the world. This is the great act. His Grace Vishika Prabhu says that some people, parents leave heritage, etc. But to leave the real heritage is the heritage of Bhagavatam or legacy. This is real legacy. In the Niti Shastra, again, there is a verse. Putra ka putra to kyo dhan sanche, putra suputra to kyo dhan sanche. If putra is kuputra, or putra or putri, that same thing. If the child is kuputra, means bad child, then no matter you leave behind $10 million or $100 million, they will use it in wrong things and spoil that. Putra, kuputra. So why to accumulate? Sanchaya means accumulate. In putra suputra, the kyodhan sanchaya. If putra is a good child, if the child is a good child, then whatever is destined, they'll be happy. Right? If we have given the right value system, the right Krishna consciousness, that's the biggest act of benevolence. Then, then they'll be happy in whatever situation. So, okay, any other comments, thoughts before we pause for today? Anyone else?
Prabhu, Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Yes, please.
Just one observation, like Shukracharya's his behavior. I mean, we saw that in the previous canto when Shukracharya was against Lord Vishnu. But when Lord Vamandev, after he completed the pastimes with Bali Maharaj, when he asked Shukracharya that why did you say that? But he was saying one verse that mantras tantras tas chidram desha kalar bostuta sharvam karoti nischidram anusankirtanam to. So it looks like at that point he was very much devotional. I mean, he gave really a main point there. But again, we see that the changes here. He could have said, I mean, from the very beginning, he could have, his behavior or attitude could be different. I mean, he was the wisest person in this pastime here. Even in Yayāti, when he cursed him, he could have said him that, okay, you got the old age, take the advantage of the old age, because when our body becomes weaker, even though we know that the mind can, but when the body attraction or bodily feature goes, down, we kind of like, we kind of cannot act even that's from my personal experience. I mean, I'm dealing with like 90-year-old, and I see that even at one point when they're sick, they cannot even think about those things like sexual activities and all these things. I'm just wondering why he didn't say to Yayāti that go to the forest and start chanting or do the devotional activities. I mean, it's like a very interesting. I'm seeing that because when he said that verse, I mean, I didn't know that he's going to come back again in this canto, and I was thinking that, oh wow, and his guest Vaishika Prabhu was just after that our class. He gave a class on that verse. I still remember on this verse. So very interesting. His behavior. Is it possible that he didn't have the association, that no devotee association? Can you say something about that?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for your wonderful reflection and comment, observation. We see that going back to old practices is seen in many situations here. Indra also, we see that multiple times. And also, I think the attachment to the main reason, one of the other reasons which said that his daughter would also not be satisfied. It was also one of the important reasons that he kind of wanted his daughter's youth to be channelized in the right way, to put it in appropriate words. Otherwise, it may lead to kind of to illicit relations. So, as we discuss in this, because if the daughter is not satisfied with the husband, then you need to more chaos. So probably that was also, in my understanding, it was also one of the reasons, and the whole thing was attachment to the daughter. And therefore he was cursing actually his own self, that this priesthood thing is not the best thing for me now. I have to go and back to Vishwaparva. What's that? What's the name? Vishwaparva? Yeah.
Parva.
These are some thoughts, Prabhu. And Nimataji or other devotees, if you have any other points, please share. Prabhu, you think it makes sense?
Yeah, I think you're right, Prabhu. I mean, when you said that he was attached to his daughter, and Prabhupada mentioned that in one of the purport there, yes.
Thank you, Prabhu. So I think it's time now. We'll pause here and continue tomorrow with the next verse and see what happens. Did they really exchange their youth and bodies, or what happened? We'll see tomorrow. Mantraj Bhagavatam Purana ki jai, Śrī Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Gaur ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyascha. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Vrisha Parva.
Hare Krishna.
Vrisha Parva is the name of Sharmishta's father.
Yeah.
Oh, so difficult to remember. Thank you. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.